I don't tell this story to be brave. I tell it because the smell of wet bamboo still finds me in grocery aisles, and I'm back there, 19 and shaking, trying to make my hands work. I was a rifleman with 2nd Platoon, Bravo Company, somewhere west of Huey in '69. We were ghosts in green, soaked fatigues, claymores, a radio that weighed like guilt. The jungle never stopped talking cicadas in the daylight, frogs and far thunder at night. We walked single file and learned to read leaves the way you read a face. The day that made me old started quiet. Lieutenant Spencer wanted a look at a saddle of ground where trails converged like veins. In and out, he said, tapping the map. No cowboy stuff. Sergeant Ruiz led us off the fire base at dawn. I walked third behind Doc Willis, who carried more bandages than hope. Danny Bell, our radio man, bumped along near the middle. The air tasted like pepper and pennies. We stepped where the man in front stepped and tried to pretend the jungle had not been specifically designed to kill us. About 2 hours in, the trail narrowed. Bamboo had been cut at an angle clean, deliberate. I hissed, "Hold." "What you got, Harlan?" Ruiz asked. "The bamboo's shaved," I said. "Not wind." He crouched, squinted, and then I saw it. 2 inches of fishing line, barely visible, tied to a sapling bent double and crusted with mud. The sapling was anchored to a board studded with nails. If we'd hit the line, the board would have snapped up at a man's face. Ruiz exhaled through his nose. "Good eyes," he said. "Bell, mark it." We go around. We bushwhacked through thorn and shade and found the trail again. The jungle punished us for avoiding the first trap by giving us a second. The path looked clean. It was not. The third man back, Sanders from Tulsa, put his heel down and the ground moved. There was a soft cough, like someone clearing his throat, and then the world slammed open. The mine took the heel from his boot, and most of the sound from my left ear. I hit the ground so hard my teeth bit my tongue. Sanders screamed once, then choked it off. Doc was already on him, hands sure and quick. "Tourniquet," he said. "Harlan, press here." I pressed. Warmth soaked my hands. Sanders stared at me, blue eyes enormous. "Don't let my mom know," he said, and then passed out. Doc worked like a machine. Ruiz got on the radio to call a Dustoff. The jungle held its breath. "Elzay, Elzay," Bell said, thumbing the handset. "We need a hole." We cut one with machetes, a ragged circle of sky big enough for a bird with a red cross. The Medevac came low and fast, the crew leaning out like angels with greasy boots. We loaded Sanders. Doc climbed in with him. The helicopter rose and vanished as if the jungle had swallowed it. We were lighter by 2 men and heavier by everything else. "Move," Ruiz said. "They heard that." We pushed deeper toward the saddle. The silence sharpened. When the ambush came, it felt almost polite-like the jungle had waited for us to sit down to eat. 2 quick pops from the tree line, then the long rip of automatic fire. It was an L-shaped textbook. Fire from the front and from the right. I dropped behind a termite mound and fired in 3-round bursts the way the sergeant had begged us to do since we landed in country. Dirt spat into my mouth. The bamboo clicked with bullets. "Bell, smoke left," Ruiz shouted. Bell popped a purple grenade. It bloomed into a choking flower, and for a moment the fire slackened as the wind rolled it toward the guns. Lieutenant Spencer crawled up beside me. "Claymore," he said. I unslung the pouch, palmed the flat green rectangle, ran the wire back to us, and jammed the prongs into the earth facing the tree line. "Front toward enemy," the Claymore said in case you forgot how to live. "Fire when they try to close," Spencer said. "You got it?" Got it. The enemy did exactly what the manual said they wouldn't, pressed into the smoke, fast and low. A shape broke through at 15 meters, then another. I thumbed the clacker. The Claymore coughed, and the air turned to nails. The front line disappeared in leaves and bodies. I did not think about who they were. I thought about staying alive long enough to help the man next to me. "Shift fire right," Ruiz yelled. We did. The right side gun fell silent like someone had put a hand over its mouth. We bounded back by twos, the way we drilled. The field of fire went from murder to harassment. Then it went to nothing. We sat in a ragged half-circle, hearts making the jungle ring. Spencer's face was white under the grime. "We keep going," he said. "They think we fell back to lick our wounds. We push through the saddle and set an ambush of our own. Maybe we get lucky." I didn't feel lucky. I felt like a coin in someone else's pocket. But we moved. By evening, we were in place above the saddle where two faint trails crossed in a shallow bowl. We set claymores on both approaches, strung trip flares, and took turns dozing behind logs that smelled like old rain. Night in Vietnam comes on like a door closing. The jungle changed keys. Frogs started to gossip. Sometime after midnight, a flare cracked. White light washed the bowl. Figures froze on the trail like deer in a field. Ruiz hissed, "Hold, hold now." We lit the clackers. Green faces went down like wheat in a sudden wind. The rest scattered. One ran straight up the slope into our line. He was my age. His eyes found mine before the barrel did. He hesitated. I did not. Afterwards, when I could think again, I would tell myself he was bringing death for me and mine. In the moment, there was no story. There was a sight picture and a muscle memory. After the echoes stopped, we waited for the counter. It didn't come. We pulled the dead into the bowl and took a look by red lens. They were skinny, filthy, brave. One carried a bag of nails, monofilament, and a set of wire cutters like the ones in my kit. The tools of his trade matched mine. At dawn, we found the rest of their camp 2 draws over. Cooking tins, a few letters wrapped in plastic, a boy's shirt sewn into a satchel. We policed up what we could use and left the rest. You learn to step around small shrines. We should have turned back then. We didn't. The lieutenant wanted to check one more trail. We moved along a creek where the water ran tea-colored and quiet. 10 minutes in, Baker, walking point, put his weight on a patch of ground that looked exactly like every other patch of ground. The cover collapsed with a wet sigh. He fell waist-deep into a pit lined with stakes whittled to needles. "Don't move!" I shouted, and he froze with his hands out like a man begging. The stakes had been smeared with rot. If they punctured him deep, infection would be waiting. I lay on my belly and eased my pack under him while Ruiz cut the stakes closest to his thighs with a bolo. We worked slow, talking to him like he was a skittish horse. "Breathe, Baker. We've got you." "I can't feel my feet," he said. "That's adrenaline," I lied. On 3, 1, 2 lift. We hauled him out, raw but alive. Doc would have flushed the wounds. Doc was riding a helicopter somewhere south. I used iodine from my kit and clean water. Baker bit on a stick and didn't make a sound. Wade, no, not Wade. Wade was a guy from my high school back home. It's funny, the brain grabbing a safe name for a moment. The man with me was Bell, still lugging the radio that made him the most valuable and the most doomed. He squeezed Baker's shoulder and said, "You're good, man. You're good." We had to carry him. That meant we had to slow down. Slowing down meant whatever we'd stepped around earlier had time to set itself again. The ambush at the creek came close and mean. The first burst cut down Spencer. He rolled into the water with a sound like someone losing a bet. I dragged him to the bank and put my hand where the blood was trying to leave. "Can you talk to me, LT?" "Don't let my map," he said. "Radio." Bell crawled over and then jerked like a puppet. His radio was spitting sparks. The handset lay in the water, buzzing like a hornet nest. "Mine's dead," he said through his teeth. "We're on our own." What happened next is the part that gets called heroism by people who weren't there. I don't wear the word well. I can tell you what I did, and you can dress it up if you need to. I rolled off the bank and belly crawled through water brown as coffee, holding Spencer's map above my head. Tracers stitched the surface. The creek bed was slick with algae and something older. Across the water, a fallen log slouched into reeds that would let me flank the fire if I could reach them. I moved an inch at a time. A bullet hit the log and made a thunk I felt in my teeth. I got to the reeds and worked along them until I could see the muzzle flashes. 2 rifles tucked into a cut in the bank, disciplined, controlled. I tossed a smoke grenade left to make them look and a frag right to make them move. The frag rolled into the cut and popped like a car backfiring. When the smoke pushed in, Ruiz and the boys on our side put everything they had into that slice of bank. The firing stopped. I pulled back, chest heaving. Hands shaking so hard I couldn't repin the empty grenade spoon. Somewhere on the bank, a bird started yelling at us for being fools. We made a sked for a pickup, a little meadow we'd used once before. Without a radio, we needed to get high enough to catch someone else's net. We hauled Baker and the lieutenant in turns and cursed in 2 languages when we stumbled. By the time we broke out of the trees, the sun was tilting toward late. "Flares," Ruiz said. "Let everybody know we're here." We popped red. Minutes later, far off, we heard blades. The helicopter came in hot and cranky. The crew chief looked at our circle of bandages and fear and gave us a nod that felt like forgiveness. We loaded Spencer and Baker. 2 more, I said, pointing to a man I only then realized was me. "Negative," the chief shouted over the rotors. "Wait, next bird." The Medevac lifted, throwing dust and grass in our faces. We circled, small against the field. The second helicopter took an hour that felt like a war by itself. During that hour, someone on the ridge decided we made an interesting target. Mortars started walking toward us. We moved and moved again, and then tried not moving because the flight path wanted a clear place that stayed put. You can't be brave for 60 minutes straight. You get brave for 5 and then petty for 10, and then you do arithmetic in your head because numbers are clean. I counted backwards from 1,000 by 7s until the second helicopter appeared, like a miracle someone had paid for. We got out. That's the long and short. We got out and lived to write letters home that said none of this. Spencer made it. Baker kept his foot, and later named a son after the man who lied to him about adrenaline. Bell got another radio and a new scar and a laugh that sounded a little bent. I got a handshake from the battalion commander and a piece of ribbon that looked better on dress screens than it felt on skin. People asked later if I hated the men who shot at us. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I remembered the boy in the smoke with the same wire cutters I carried. Mostly I loved the men beside me. That's the heroism part folks don't understand. It isn't a flag moment. It's holding a map out of the water because the lieutenant is bleeding on it. It's lying about pain to a man stuck on stakes. It's crawling because standing makes you a story someone's mother gets in the mail. I'm old now. I fix things when I can and leave them alone when I can't. When the wind moves through the cottonwoods just right, the bamboo clicks in my ear and my hands start to tremble. I let them. I breathe until they settle. If you need a moral, take this. Traps aren't always on the ground. They're in pride, in hurry, in the belief that you've seen every trick the world knows. The day I stopped believing that is the day I started living again. And if you need a hero, look for the kid holding up a map in a muddy creek while bullets stitch the water. He wasn't brave. He was busy. Sometimes that's the same thing.